day there viewers, my name is Cliff and welcome to my channel called Vintage Time. In today's episode of How to Cut Gemstones, I'll be featuring amethyst that comes out of Zambia. And like most African amethysts, Zambian amethyst is some of the finest on the planet. It has those brilliant blues and red flashes, but also there are different shades, and as you can see by these various preforms I'm holding, you can see from the first clip that the first preform was a lot lighter and the one I'm holding now is a lot darker with brilliant blue and red flashes. However, this is the piece that I will be cutting today, and it's sort of in between the light and the dark, and this is going to be a bit of a modified cut, so let's get on to cutting this gem. So the amethyst has been placed in the transfer jig and is being glued to a brass stop stick, and I've centered it as best as I can, and I've used a 2-part epoxy glue and let it just cure overnight. So here in this scene, the following day, the gem is fully attached to the brass stop stick and I'm ready to start cutting by placing it in the quill of the faceting machine. But I have noted there are a few little veils in this gem, so I'm going to have to deal with those later on. So in the previous scene I've been using an old 100 grit diamond disc, and I've just been roughing things out just to create 4 main facets to almost a center point. And just a tip, keep your old discs because they are great for doing just basic rough outs. So in this scene I've cleaned things up a bit and I've used a 600 grit diamond disc, and you can see that the facets are a lot cleaner and sharper. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to cut more pavilion facets using the 600 grit disc, as I've removed most of the material by using the 100 grit disc in the previous scene. So I've cut all the various facets to depth using the 600 grit disc, and I've cut them to a center point. However, I can see that on one of the facets there's a little chip, and that could pose a problem later on. So we'll just see what happens, because there's nothing worse than having little chips on facets, particularly when you're trying to polish them out. So I've been cutting the girdle facets to depth, and obviously there's still a chip in the pavilion which I'm trying to hide as I rotate the gem. It's very disheartening having chips in gems if you're a gem cutter. Anyway, this particular gem, as I said earlier, it's a mod design and it appears to be an oval, but in fact it's going to be a round. And you can see now as I've cut more of the girdle facets that they're all level and cut to depth, and it still looks like an oval. It's actually an optical illusion because the facets are irregular both on the pavilion and on the girdle, and I just love that effect. Well, ultimately it had to happen. I went on to polishing the pavilion facets, and that chip that I had in the pavilion just wouldn't come out, so I tried to cut it out, but eventually I was getting below the critical angle of this particular gem, which was under 42 degrees on the pavilion, and I decided, well, I still had plenty of meat on the gem, and I'm just going to recut all the facets again. So what I'll do, I'll just fast forward all the clips, because basically it's just going over what I did before. So things are slowed down now, and I'm back on track, and I'm at where I was before with the chip removed. However, I've polished the girdle, and I've just started polishing the pavilion facets. So the pavilion's been cut, and once again the transfer jig has come into play. So the pavilion has been glued into a special dop, and then I'll remove the dop that's attached to the crown. So the gem has been removed from the crown dop and has been glued into the pavilion dop, and incidentally this particular gem measures at 11mm, so it's a nice sized gem. So I'm currently cutting the crown, and as you can see this is a quick rough out, and I'm cutting this crown in a step cut formation, and I've just used a 100 grit disc, and then I'll use a 600 and then an 800 grit disc. Now someone said a while ago, they said, don't you ever do a pre-polish? And the answer is yes and no. What I do, I keep my old discs, like the 800 grit disc is virtually worn to the point where it's a 3000 grit pre-polish disc. So here you see me cut the second tier of facets, then I'll move on to the third tier, and then I'll cut the table, and then I'll do the final polish with the cerium oxide. Now you'll notice in some of the scenes following that I'll highlight it with subtitles, but I've done a couple overcuts, and I'll use the cerium oxide to actually cheat the cuts in so they're all nice and level. Anyway, it'll be over and out for me, so sit back and relax, watch the rest of the video, enjoy the music. But I just got to say that I think the next video will be something right out of the ballpark. It'll be something totally different and unique, and as you know, I like to have themes to my videos, so stand by for that one. I haven't cut this stone yet, but I'm coming up with an interesting concept. Meanwhile, please like and subscribe, leave some comments, and if you want to watch any future videos, you have to hit the bell icon. So take care everybody, and stand by for the final reveal, and until next time, bye.